Okay, so this is the story of probably, well, what I'm saying probably, this is just the biggest gamble of my life by a long way. And if I look a little haggard, it's because I've just spent a load of time doing some sciencey stuff, which I'll come to sometime anyway. Yeah, so I just spent $15,000 on a camera and I've got no guarantee that it'll work. Now, um, yeah, is this an act of supreme stupidity, or is it a worthwhile calculated risk? And yeah, so for a long time, I wanted a high-speed camera that I can actually do something sensible with. So goes way back to these guys. This is a Casio XLE. This is the first stuff I did high-speed video with. And yes, the burn marks are real. These are burn marks from sodium explosions. Anyway, so at about 500 lines of resolution, this will do about 300 frames per second, which in its time was bloody good. Nowadays, you can sort of get this almost as standard on most cameras, and I think even the iPhone will do it. Anyway, so yeah, about 300 frames per second on that. Then you come up to something a little more modern, like this Sony, and this guy will go up to about 1,000 frames per second. It's up 500-ish lines of resolution, which is sensible resolution, sensible speed. That's pretty good. So I mean, you're about 300 frames per second here for $300, 1,000 frames for $1,000. The camera that I've just bought goes up to about 20,000 frames per second at the same resolution. So that's sort of getting up for the speed when you start filming bullets and such like. In fact, even the sort of very upper top end state of the art type cameras are only sort of an order of magnitude better than this. So this is top shelf stuff. So it's a Phantom V611 is the actual camera, and yeah, so new as far as I can tell. They talk in at about $50,000-$60,000, but you can get them second hand or refurbished for 25, 30-ish, that sort of thing, which is anyway. So one of these cameras comes up on eBay for about $30,000, and it's like, and then it's relisted about a week later, well, maybe a couple of weeks later, for about $15,000. Now that's actually in the possible range for now that I have some very generous sponsors for this channel. Thank you, Patreon. Anyway, so now comes the thing: is it worth it? Well, obviously, if it's working, yeah, absolutely, no brainer. The problem is that so it comes with the thing, solar scene, no returns. Which might make you have serious pause for thought. This is not something where you can just easily write the money off. Anyway, so I started looking at it. It turns out they've actually got the data sheet for the camera on, you're not the data sheet, it's the actual sort of service history of the camera on the website, on eBay. And it lists the previous owner. It's an aerospace satellite manufacturer, so for them a camera like this is sort of routine lab purchases type thing. Not something they just get rid of, but it's the sort of thing that for them $15,000 wouldn't be a great loss. That kind of checks out. That this is actually on the camera service history, and I call up the manufacturers of the camera, and they confirm what it says on eBay, that when the camera was last serviced on such and such a date, that it was fully functional and had an absolute clean bill of health. So now this is starting to look fairly promising. And lastly, the company that was actually selling it on eBay, they basically just sell on lab equipment. So again, they've been doing this for 15 years, and they got a 100% rating on eBay. So, but it still says sold as seen and no returns. So, in principle, the camera, if it works, it's a bargain that would save you at least $10,000 over buying it new, or something that will do something comparable new. So they do the refurbished cameras, or there are some cheaper versions that you can get in Europe that are again, they're about $25,000-$30,000 that'll do this. 20,000 frames at about 500 lines of resolution. So, now you come down to the calculated gamble, which is, there's what works on paper and there's what works in practice. But anyway, that there is actually genuinely silver. Silver, it turns out, is actually not that expensive. It's about 50 cents per gram. So there's 4 grams there. That's about $2 worth. Now, if I was selling this on eBay for $1, basically half the price, then even if 50% of the time it was complete crap, it would still be worth buying. You would still be at the break-even point, because you're only on average paying $2 per. You're still only paying 50% per gram on average. So those are the things you need to know: is what's it actually worth, or what's it worth to you, and what's the probability that it's actually real. And looked at like that, this is a kind of a no-brainer, in that the camera's got a clean bill of health. The last time it was seen working, it's being sold on from a satellite company to a reseller with a long and favourable history. What's the probability that it's not actually working? So if it is working, it's probably about $10,000, almost half the price. So looked at it like that, it would have to have about a 50% chance of working to not be worth the gamble. But the thing is here, that you're not doing this 100 times and taking the average. You're doing it once on amounts of money that you can't easily, that you've got to take seriously. The camera is in the post. It's and if it works, then you're going to get some absolutely top-notch high-speed videos on this channel. So something to look forward to, on top of actually been doing a load of stuff with it next door with the thermal camera. So fingers crossed. And if you've got any suggestions on whether this was an act of supreme stupidity or a sensible calculated risk, let me know. Let me know down in the comments below. Actually, for a little bonus, let me just show you what I got on my table here, because just give it a little fun. Let's come down here. Is that about right? Come a little closer. There we go. So, as you can see, I've now got quite a lot of these little laser ball things, and I've got green and blue ones now, and you can do some even more fun stuff with the green and blue ones. So the blue ones do actually sort of glow a bit blue, green ones glow green, and they're really cool. These, they're only like $3 a piece or something. They're really fun, and you do some really cool stuff with them with the LEDs, which I'll do a fun little video on sometime. And you'll notice there are lots of metal bars here. I've got a superb number of elements on this desk. So here we have carbon, that's graphite, and that's a nickel rod, a zinc rod, and a copper rod. There was one of these bogus Kickstarter things that said they were making, what was it? It was a saltwater powered flashlight that didn't need batteries, and it was just one of the dumbest ideas I've ever seen. Anyway, so that's why I need the zinc and the copper rod. Also worked out these are quite useful for demonstrating a problem called emissivity with infrared cameras, and that's why you need the silver there as well. So silver is an absolute superb conductor of heat, but if you look at it under a thermal camera, you can't see it at all, and that's a problem called emissivity. So things like carbon are great. You know, they show up well on infrared cameras. Silver, not so. Anyway, and that, just so you know, that's the most that's the most expensive thing on this table. That's actually, is it a little focus? Whatever. Go on, focus on that, you bastard. Yeah. So that is actually gold. There's 5 grams of gold there. And gold's about $50 a gram, so it's about $250 of gold there. Yeah, the silver, by comparison, that's about $2 of silver. The silver is comparatively cheap, but again, they have interesting infrared properties. And this is some stuff I've been working on. That's D2O, heavy water, which is about $1 per gram. So crazily enough, the actual water costs more per gram than the silver. And then I have my little optical windows, which is going to do something with, what's I going to do something with? Global warming, that's right. So, what do we got? Somewhere in here, I have something cool. That's glass. So you can make optical windows out of all sorts of things, and this one is beautiful. So this is a sapphire optical window, which, as you see, it's quite clear. Anyway, the sapphire, if I remember rightly, they make one of the iPhones. They have sapphire screens on them. But all of these things have interesting optical properties in what they let through and what they don't. And the one that I'm actually after in here is a germanium window. It's also an element, so we've got, yeah, really quite a lot of elements on this table. Germanium, there we go. And the thing you'll notice about germanium is, first of all, it's beautiful. So there we go. That's what you look like. So it looks very shiny, very mirror-like, very non-see-through. But the thing is, it's actually an optical window in the infrared. And so they actually made the lenses for infrared cameras out of this stuff. Yeah, and you do some quite interesting demonstrations about global warming, which I will get to sometime. So yeah, that's just some fun stuff from my desk.